The Sports Lounge, brought to you by Waterview Sportsbook and Casino, with hosts John Wiener and Ray Coleman. Welcome to the Lounge.
Put it on the board. Yes, it's a new Sports Lounge. Welcome into the show, Ray. We had our highest rated Sports Lounge on record last week. So big shout out to all of our audience and even new upgraded Sports Lounge this week.
And no pressure at all. That's just big business, right?
Exactly.
That's the price of business. We're doing big things over here. We're going to have some hot topics for you today as well.
Yeah, always exciting what's happening here in the Sports Lounge. An exciting show coming up. We got our starters. Lots of big topics here, though, as we wane down in these early summer months. But Ray, there's no waning down in Table for Two, everybody's favorite.
Absolutely, man. Everybody's favorite. We're going to talk a little bit of everything, too. Football, a little baseball, take us back down memory lane. Great deep dish coming up, though, man, in my opinion, when you're talking about specialization. Summertime is the time you see that happening a lot, too. So I think that'll be a great conversation in the Sports Lounge.
Jeff Wright, 929 ESPN Radio in Memphis will join us. Always fun, always interesting, always thorough and spot on. So Jeff's going to join us. We'll have Game Time coming up. We're going to run it back from last week. The game wheel, the wheel of death, told us what we were going to do.
Yeah, man. Rock'em Sock'em. You know, I took a KO. Let's just be real about it. I took a knockout, and you took home the championship. But I'm gonna try to redeem myself, man. I'm supposed to be pound for pound around here, so we'll see what happens.
All kinds of fun here in the Sports Lounge. Glad you're with us on Bash Brothers Media. Of course, follow us on all of our social media platforms. Make sure you share the show. This keeps getting bigger and better every week, and I want everybody to be a part of it. So, Ray, let's get into our starters right now. And look, the big story still around the country is NBA free agency and the NBA offseason. We've talked about the draft the last 2-3 weeks, and it all went down last week. Now free agency is upon us. What's the biggest storyline for you as we go through these summer months?
I still say it's Kevin Durant because somebody's going to have to take a chance on what could be the best player in the game or damaged goods. And I just simply say that because we know what he's dealing with, right? The Achilles tendon injury. You got to look at it one or two ways, right? Either you're going to invest 4 years of money for a 3-year guy, or you're going to say, I feel like he still got it. I just don't know, man. That's a scary position to be in. I'm glad I don't have to write that check, but I still feel like regardless of whether he's going to play next year or not, which he's probably not, I just still think that determines the rest of the NBA and how it goes forward.
Well, it's funny you talk about Kevin Durant because that's it for me too in a way, but it's the New York Knicks specifically. Ray, I've been hearing for 2 years from Knicks fans from all over, from ISO Joe sitting right over there in the Sports Lounge to my guy. Knicks fans have all been pointing to the summer of 2020. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and change the franchise. I said the Knicks are going to come up with nothing. Like they're going to roll snake eyes, and now here it is. After all of this that we've been building to, the Knicks, it doesn't look like they want Kevin Durant because of the injury. Kyrie Irving says thanks, but no thanks. Now I talk to my Knicks fan, he's like, we're good. RJ Barrett's going to be the guy. Like, and I just, as we built to all this, I had a funny feeling, Ray, that the Knicks, through all this, like they did in the LeBron summer, might just strike out. And I wonder if the Knicks are totally going to come up snake eyes.
And it's crazy for you to mention that because it's true. They cleared out all this cap space so they could sign 2 max players, right? And you would think
and now they're hyped about Knox and RJ Barrett.
And you would think KD would fall into the laps, man. But of course, being that it's the Knicks that may be the front runner, all of this bad luck happens to them. It's not even them. It happened to KD, but it affects them in such a major way. So, I don't know, man. But I tell you what I do know. I don't trust the Knicks in making a solid decision moving forward.
You just knew that it would it wasn't going to work. You know what I mean? This master plan building to 2020. Well, you know what's not a master plan is the way college baseball is structured. And as we talked about Mississippi State going through the College World Series and what's happening right now in Omaha, there's been a big conversation that has emerged that the coaches have put on blast, that Jake Mangum came out and spoke on very eloquently as his parting shot.
Good
and we'll have that later in
doubt.
the show in his press conference in Omaha. There's only 11.5 scholarships in college baseball. There's no third assistant coach. It is seemingly a dog and pony show for a sport that's so big down here. Is it time to fix college baseball? Like, what do you think?
No question. And I'll attack it first from the unpaid assistant, right?
Okay.
You can't have a coach teaching the game.
I mean, it's high school stuff.
That's high school stuff, man. When you ask somebody to come on and volunteer and give their time. Respect to those folks who do, but this is college baseball. We're promoting the heck out of College World Series, and we're investing all this money into college baseball programs, and we're asking the guy to come and say, give them the game, but we don't want to compensate you for it.
Yeah.
That alone is crazy enough for me. The scholarship stuff is confusing and it's crazy.
It's also crazy. I mean, it's a full-time job for them like everyone else.
It's a full-time job, man. We're asking these folks to sacrifice time but not be compensated for it. What about you on the scholarship side, though?
Well, the scholarship thing is equally laughable and hard to make sense of. Rick Cleveland, the Gov, wrote a great column, and Ray, volleyball gets more scholarships, softball gets more scholarships, and there's more people playing baseball. I mean, it's a head scratcher, and really is historically based about the scholarships. The reason why it hasn't changed, though, is I think still in college baseball, where the powers are in terms of decision making.
Sure.
It's not the SEC. It's in the Northeast. It's the West Coast. And while college baseball is so big down here, Ray, I just think that the NCAA as a whole and sort of where the powers lie, they don't view college baseball in the same revenue way that we do down here. And stuff just, it takes time to change things, especially here in the South. Yeah. You know what I mean? You got to break chains to do anything down here. But I think it's the concentration of where the wealth is and where it isn't in college baseball.
That's a valid point. Listen, great points all around. You know where there is a wealth of talent and knowledge when it comes to the game? Football, 7-on-7. When you can look around the summer here in Mississippi and you see every field full of 7-on-7 tournaments, whether it be competitive or just, regular go
Just
scrimmages.
had a big one at Jackson Prep this past week, Fletcher Cox's camp.
The 7-on-7 has changed the game and vice versa. I think the college and NFL game has impacted 7-on-7. For you personally, though, what are some of the benefits and I guess some of the downsides of 7-on-7 when you're talking about the high school level?
Let's table the downside, speaking of table for two and deep dish. We'll get into sort of specialization of sports and what's happening in these summer months. I'll tell you the biggest impact in a positive way that I've seen in 7-on-7 in Mississippi, and I think you see it here maybe more than anywhere in the country, has been, Ray, the evolution of the passing game.
Yes.
At the high school level and even before that, and the opening up of the passing game in terms of black quarterbacks given more of an opportunity and just development as a whole for QBs. This state more than ever was 3 yards in a cloud of dust, run the football, play defense. And as talented as we were here in this state, the offense was way behind. It was limited. Let's face it, a lot of teams in Mississippi that were powers, even South Panola, couldn't throw the football down the field. I think 7-on-7, both the development, but the emphasis on it as well in terms of what the passing game can do. I think in this state, we've seen more strides at the quarterback position specifically through 7-on-7 than I think just about anything that I've seen in football in this state over the past 20 years. I think it's been hugely beneficial.
I'm just going to tell a quick story to explain how important 7-on-7 is here in Mississippi. Back when I was working in television, we would cover the 7-on-7s in the summer, just because you needed something to cover, right? And I just remember watching Provine High School show up, and I said, what the heck are they doing here? This is 22 lead high school, right?
Exactly.
Just get those 3 yards that you mentioned. And they open it up. If you go to Provine High School now, one of their football games, they open it up. They got 3 and 4 wide. That's the game changer. When you take a culture and change it on the high school level because they know they need to prep these kids for that next level where the spread is being run at a high clip. That shows the impact that 7-on-7 is having, not here in Mississippi alone, but in the country in general.
You know, I go back to a class you talk about when we were in the TV doing this. Strap the camera on the back, go out and sweat in that 99-degree turf. But I remember that class, you had Gardner Minshew, Jack Abraham, Nick Mullins. I mean, so many guys who were pure pocket passers and have gone on to be elite passers at the next level. I just think there's been such a positive impact of 7-on-7. But there are some different sides to it, much like we talk about with AAU basketball that we'll get into in the deep dish. Man, it's Major League Baseball season. We're getting into dog days of summer, which for some people it's like, let's lock in on baseball. What's the story that stands out for you right now in the MLB?
Man, you would think I'd be excited to say this, but so many home runs, man. I mean, every time you look up, and I get it, chicks dig the long ball. That was the slogan back in the day with Nike and the Atlanta Braves, right? So many home runs, but also so many strikeouts too. It's like feast or famine, and I know that's where the game has gone now. But I don't see a lot of stolen bases and doubles, and the all exciting triple for me is what really gets you out of your seat.
You're a triple guy.
Yeah, so I just feel like it's too much. I know it's exciting for most people, but as a guy who's getting back into the game as a huge fan, I don't like a lot of home runs and strikeouts.
Well, what's remarkable about it, you talk about the home runs. I mean, the New York Yankees, 26 games in a row with the homer for ISO Joe's Bronx Bombers, and I think that's a franchise record. And you talk about all of the great lineups that the Yankees have had. This is the best one, so you're spot on. For me, it's a couple of Mississippi guys, actually. You know, we like to keep it close to home. You talk about home runs, Hunter Renfroe,
he's crushing.
23, 24 home runs right now, about third or fourth in the National National League, Ray, when he came out of Mississippi State as a first-round pick, said, here's a 5'2" player.
Yep.
He's going to be a stud.
Yep.
He's going to be a superstar, and he is ascending to that level right now, one of the bigger power hitters and more exciting players in the National League. And then Brandon Woodruff on the other side, who's tied for the National League lead in wins. And Woodruff was a guy that, when he was at Mississippi State, it never really developed.
Yeah.
Everyone said, he's got Friday night stuff, he's got first-round stuff, and for whatever reason, he couldn't become that guy in Starkville. But you see what they're talking about now all the time, that all those guys, Chris Stratton and Kendall Graveman, it's Brandon Woodruff that's having the year in the MLB
you mentioned
right now.
That's such a great point. It's always cool to see guys who they say, have this unlimited potential, but they can't figure out on the college level, and you're like, well, how are they going to figure out on the next level? And they do. You're right. He's dealing, man, and it's pretty cool to see a guy realize that potential and take it to the next level.
I'm fired up to watch a little baseball here coming up
Me too.
over the summer months.
For sure.
I'm really fired up for Table for Two.
Yeah, no
it's
doubt.
always fun. Cam Newton's been in the news, a little minor league baseball in the news, a quarterback action, college football looking ahead to the fall. It's all there, always fun in Table for Two. Coming up next in the Sports Lounge.
Get in the game in the Sports Lounge. Online, on screen, every week. Follow us online at Bash Brothers Media.
Hanging out in the Sports Lounge, he is John. I'm Ray. Got Josh the Juice. You know who we got right there?
Who's that?
Houdini Hank.
Whoa, Houdini.
Houdini Hank, because he makes the magic.
I'm okay with that.
You okay with that?
Houdini Hank, look at
That's
him.
not
He's
bad.
loaded
That's
up
not
back
bad.
there. That's not bad.
I was worried I was going to get negative feedback, but I'm looking around. Josh is kind of quiet, though. Juice is quiet.
Josh the Juice is like, I've seen anything. But Josh is like, I see anything but Houdini when we work together every day.
I want a unanimous decision, so I almost want to come back next week, but we'll work on it.
I kind of like the dog.
Ooh.
We could stay with that one too, but like that's more of like an inside
We're working
joke,
out some things for our
exactly.
guy Hank. Just understand that it's under construction. But so far Houdini is good though.
Yeah, we like
It's
Houdini.
okay.
It's pretty good. We know one person who we've got.
Who's that?
ISO! ISO Joe on the ISO cam. Joe, we got Table for Two. What's going on?
Yeah, so we got Table for Two coming up, and I give you guys three choices.
Yep.
You guys got to pick two, so let's get right into it. We're going.
And we had a fan poll this week, right?
Yeah, we did. We did a little fan poll. I haven't seen the numbers, but we're gonna toss it in on the screen here.
There you go.
So anyway, so we got Cam Newton in the news recently for some interesting things. So let's go with the best Newton: Isaac Newton, Wayne Newton, and Cam Newton.
Stop.
You're serious, right? This is a real,
That is fantastic, first of all.
Go ahead.
Give me Cam.
Yeah, of
just
course.
simply because he offered up the doll hairs, as we like to say, to get that extra leg room.
1,500, and Buddy was like, no.
Forget what he's done on the field. Give me Cam and the dude who denied the 1,500, right?
Yeah, right.
Give me Sir Isaac Newton, because without him, we don't have physics, man. So let's just do that.
Yeah.
Wayne Newton, never heard a single song of Wayne Newton. I know Wayne
he's
Newton.
the deal.
I can point him out in the lineup, but I've never heard a single song.
I think Fig Newton should have been in instead of Wayne Newton. Like, I'm not going to blow this up, you know what I mean? But Fig, that's from ISO Joe. Fig
no
would have
doubt,
been
no
good.
doubt.
Ray, you see I'm holding my paper because I don't want you to see
no
what I've
doubt.
got.
Okay.
I'm the same one with you, man. Isaac, Gravity, Cam, like Wayne, solid job. I'm with you.
Cam.
Isaac and Cam and like Fig Newtons are also good.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
see, I would have went Sir Isaac Newton and blown it up with a Fig Newton.
With
Missed me with
Fig.
Cam.
Yeah, well, I know you're not a Cam guy, but you don't know much.
Yeah.
All right, let's do best football route, and we're gonna go with slant, curl, and go.
Slant, curl, and go.
Okay.
I'll go first on this one again. You got to go route, because when you're playing in the backyard, if you don't know anything else, throw it deep, chuck it up, and let's see what happens,
sure.
right? Randy Moss got into the Hall of Fame for that.
And you know the best part of Randy on the go route is when he put the hand up.
Put the hand up.
When Randy put the hand up like early. Before the quarterback even got the snap, that
Before the
hand was
quarterback
up.
got the snap, before he was even past the guy, because he knew that was a skill. So let's go with the go route. Let's go with the slant route, because you never know what you can do on the yak.
Yeah.
The curl route, I mean, it's like I can go out and run a curl route right
boring.
now. And it's
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
kinda
boring,
boring.
you know what I mean? So give me the slant, give me the go.
Yeah, I'm with you. We want home run hitters here,
All
like
right.
slant
All
route
right.
and go route. Obviously, the go route, and it's not a fade route. You know, I think people confuse that
Yes.
sometimes. A
Yes.
go route, like we're hitting a home run.
We're going, baby.
And we've talked about Odell Beckham Jr. a lot, like Jerry Rice. I
Yes.
mean, the favorite route was
Yes.
the slant route. What I love about the slant, Ray, is it provides both. You need a 3rd down and 2.
Yep.
You need a 1st and goal, and you're trying to convert. A lot of times you'll go with that slant route. But nowadays, especially in the NFL, if you want to hit a home run, you can go that slant route
That's right.
too. And
That's
So
right.
I'll go route and slant route.
I like this so far. Okay.
Yeah, I don't blame you guys. I mean, one of the best parts about the go route, when you see that quarterback load up, when you got like a Deshaun Watson, T.Y. Hilton, somebody like that, and you just know. You know that they're downfield
There you go,
waiting.
man.
I know why Joe doesn't like the curl route. I know why ISO Joe would never go curl route. Did you know that?
What happened on the curl route?
Well, it was in Super Bowl 41, believe it or not, and the ball that Tracy Porter picked was a curl route. And you know what's funny is they knew that they were going to run the curl route. They called it out early. I'm loving this right now.
You found a way to fit this in every single episode.
This was on a tee, and you look like if the camera right behind Joe, that's Tracy Porter returning, said curl route, but they called it early in the game. Scott Vegeta said, look, if they show this look on 3rd down and 6, they're going to go with that curl.
Are you telling me that Peyton Manning is predictable?
I mean, when you had, that was the beauty of what the Saints did to the Colts in Super Bowl 41 is all the things that they gained in these extra possessions and advanced scouting. So maybe the curl route should be a favorite of mine.
ISO.
Go ahead.
So anyways, this week, the Jackson Braves are switching over to become the Jackson Generals, and they're going to play against the Tennessee Generals. So it's the Jackson Generals against Jackson Generals, which is a bit odd. But so in honor of that, we're going to go with the best Jackson minor league franchise, and we're going Mets, Generals, Braves.
I'll go first on this one, and I'm going to knock it out and stay with nostalgia and keep it close to home. I never really saw the Jackson Mets, but like the lore that you hear about with the Mets over at Smith-Will Stadium with Darryl Strawberry, Fernando Valenzuela, and kind of like what the original franchise was in Jackson. I'll go with the Mets and like the Generals. I mean, that was my wheelhouse as a kid with Billy Wagner and Richard Hidalgo and so many great players, Darryl Ward, and you name it. Seeing the big Generals come back. But just because, Ray, that was so much of my childhood, the very end of the Mets and the Jackson Generals. And I love the feel over at the old Smith-Will's, gritty, minor league, kind of feel. The Braves are a little something different. I like the old school minor league clubs.
I'm only disagreeing with you because you've already spoken to the childhood portion, and that's my childhood as well. So at the end of the day, you got that. That's easy. Jackson Mets, because of what you said, man. I mean, literally, Darryl Strawberry is one of the best baseball players, pure baseball
Lenny
players.
Dykstra, too. I forgot about that.
To ever do it. So the guys that we had come through Jackson before our time, but quite literally, some of the best baseball players to ever do it, man. The who's who. I'm going to mention the Braves because they do need mentioning. Freddie Freeman, right? Look at today's game. Ronald Acuna, Ozzie Albies, you name it. Brian McCann. These guys came through Mississippi before they got there. You know what I mean? And you can mention Jeff Francoeur, whoever your who's
Jason
who.
Hayward. Francoeur, Hayward, McCann, Freeman.
So all these guys you're talking about now, it just goes to show that the Braves organization now, today, absolutely has it together with their farm system, man, showing that they can build a true franchise from the ground up.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
All right, last, we got football season coming right around the corner, so let's talk about who's got the best shot in 2019. State, Ole Miss, Southern Miss.
I'll
There's a
go
bunch
first.
of 6-win teams on the table, Ray.
It's funny when you and I were talking about it, it's like, it's this bunch of 6-win teams. I'm going to pick USM for two reasons. One, black and gold all day.
Sure.
Southern Miss to the top. But they also return one of the best defenses in Conference USA. When you're talking about the rankings from D-line to linebacker to DB, they do return that. So I'll give them credit for that. With the other two, it just depends on what your flavor is, man. I'm going to go with Mississippi State because I just feel like they'll finish 7-5 and Ole Miss will finish 5-7. So that's why I'm going to say Mississippi State over Ole Miss.
I'm going to agree with you on Southern Miss for a slightly different reason. It's an easier path
no
for
question.
the Golden Eagles.
Yeah.
And when I'm looking at, 2019 in the fall, who we want on our table, we're talking about who's going to have the most wins.
Yeah.
And I think both it's a little easier for Southern Miss, and you're right. They have a great defense coming back, a quarterback in Jack Abraham who they feel good about. Jay Hobson's fourth year. I don't know if Southern Miss is CUSA 11-1 caliber team, but I think this is a team that has a real chance to be a 9-3 tight ball club. Could they go 7-5? Absolutely. And then between Mississippi State and Ole Miss, I'm going to go with Mississippi State just because I think the cupboard is a little more full, especially on the defensive side. Like, I think Ole Miss has a chance to be pretty good with Matt Corral and Rich Rodriguez running the offense.
Right.
Like, State and Ole Miss feel like 6 and 7 win teams. And you know how it is, Ray, in the SEC, in football. It's a couple of bounces, one or two plays. If you're a 6-win team, that can make you 8-4, or that can make you 4-8 on the other side. But I'll go with Mississippi State just because I think they have a little more depth in the program, especially on the defensive side. But I think Mississippi State has a real worry at the quarterback position, the most important spot.
Yeah.
All right, keeping things in the segment of football, we're going with best young quarterbacks. We gave our audience a chance to join us in the table for two, and they chose demandingly that it was Mayfield and Watson. But let me give you guys the options right now. So we got Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson, Jared Goff. Who are you guys taking at your table?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll go first. Go first. Jared Goff has played in the Super Bowl, right? So that alone should get him to the table because he's the one guy out of these two that's made it to the Super Bowl, but he ain't hanging out at my table.
No, Jared Goff.
He's not hanging at my table.
He's too stiff for you.
No, it's just I don't believe in Jared Goff.
Okay.
Regardless of whether or not he's made it to the Super Bowl, Deshaun Watson is a stud. Now, he needs to calm down before he gets himself hurt in the NFL. He needs to learn how to slide and get out of bounds. But when it comes to the talent, he's probably the most talented of the three. Baker Mayfield, I know people hate his cockiness, but I just like his juice, man. I like the fact that he is ultra confident in himself and in his arm, and he probably has the best arm of the three. So I'm going to go Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree, and I think you fall victim to the same thing that our audience did. It's what you said. One of these guys has played in a Super Bowl.
It's true.
Baker Mayfield has accomplished very little, next to nothing in the NFL, except for had some flashy games at the end of the season. If you ask me, I'm going to go with the two guys right now who have proven they can do it over a 16-game season in multiple years, and I feel like certainly with Jared Goff, with the Rams and Sean McVay, like we were all out on Jared Goff at first, and I think a lot of the public still sees Goff as kind of like stiff, but this dude in that system put up major numbers and is a big-time quarterback going forward. And Deshaun Watson, I think, has shown a little bit of the same thing as an MVP-type guy in Houston. I'm not saying Baker Mayfield won't be those two guys, but if I had to bet on like who's a surefire 7-8 year producer in the NFL going forward, like we'll see with Baker. I mean, I like all the things that you like too, and he certainly looks good, but like that's a long way from doing what certainly Jared Goff has done and Watson has done. And by the way, I'm still not like ready to bet on the Cleveland Browns as being like the next New England Patriots.
I'm not ready to bet on the Cleveland Browns either. I just feel like if the Los Angeles Rams loved Jared Goff the way you love them, they would have re-signed him already. So
I mean, Goff bought out.
He did. He
bought out of my guys. I had to see it.
He made it to the Super Bowl and he played against Tom Brady and all of that's great, and he still has no check to cash. So
Yeah. Well, no, I mean it's a valid point. It's a valid point. And like Goff is really interesting though because like after year one they were like this dude stinks. Yeah. Like we missed, and then like ISO Joe, like weigh in on this. I mean you know it as well as anybody. This kind of like
Sean
where's
McVay
Jared Goff?
ended up being the savior, and you know some people can attribute that Sean McVay is the reason that Jared Goff is this good, and we saw with some of the throws that he made in the Super Bowl, they just weren't there. He had chances and he just missed his throws. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't love like betting on Jared Goff. Like I am not sure that I'd rather have Baker and Deshaun at my table. I think certainly Baker, but like over the next 10 years, I'd probably go with Goff and Watson. But I certainly want to see Baker succeed, and you know it'd be a lot of fun for the NFL. And we're Team Baker in here. Like we're all about all of those qualities.
Yeah, man.
All about ISO Joe in Table for Two Sports Lounge, and look, it's all about sharing the show. Come on in, enjoy the fun. Ray, audience getting bigger every week. We had our highest rated show last week. It's been going up and up and up. Really excited for the fall too, when football season really kicks off. We're kicking back in the Sports Lounge. Stay with us.
You are in the Sports Lounge, Mississippi's place for sports.
Hanging out in the Sports Lounge, he's Ray Coleman, I'm John Wiener. We got new video technology here in the lounge and a new guest, old friend on the line. Jeffrey Wright, 929 in Memphis, new host of the Giannato and Jeffrey Show, 2 to 4 on ESPN Radio there in Memphis, joining us. Jeff, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
Man, it is great to be here. I'm doing well. How about yourselves?
Doing great, doing great. Always having fun here in the Sports Lounge, drinking a little beer. Jeff, it's an exciting time to, be in Memphis and talking sports when you look at what's happening with Penny Hardaway, certainly in Memphis basketball. But the Memphis Grizzlies, we know how, Ray, wedded Memphis is to their basketball teams, both at the college level and in pros. And Jeffrey, with Ja Morant coming in and what's happening with Memphis, how excited is the community and from what you can tell, that franchise?
Yeah, it's really fascinating to watch because until the night of the NBA draft lottery, if you're a Grizzlies fan, I don't want to say you were apathetic or that you're depressed, but I think a big aspect of it in terms of your fanship was there did not seem to be a clear path of how to get this team better. So, for instance, at the end of the year, you're saying, okay, well, let's see if we can win as many games as possible. That way we can get the 9th spot. That way you convey the draft pick to Boston, and then next year you can start working on your rebuild and starting it at that point. And that's kind of that's kind of a reach in terms of a fan, like to conceptualize, like when you have to jump through that many hoops, it's kind of difficult to be excited.
Yeah.
And then the night of the draft lottery, as soon as there was one team that came up in like 11 or 12. And once that occurred, you realize, oh, that meant the Grizzlies are now in the top 4.
Yeah.
And so if you do how the lottery worked, you knew that they were going to be in the top 4. And then people on Twitter are starting to realize that's what's happening. Then the way that the draft lottery works, it's great theater. And so you start around, you're sticking around for the commercial break to see who gets in the top 4. And then it's the Grizzlies, the Pelicans, the Knicks, and the Lakers. And once the Lakers and the Knicks come up in 4 and 3 respectively, you're like, oh my God, like, are they going to get Zion? Like you had that like weird reality. And then it was a really sweet spot for the Grizzlies because I think a lot of people had talked themselves into Morant well before, hoping maybe he'd fall to like 7 or 8 in the draft and then the Grizzlies could get him. Well, then when it became obvious that he was going to probably not go worse than 2 or 3, if you couldn't get Zion, everyone started to lock in on Morant because you had this elephant in the room of what do you do with Mike Conley? And behind closed doors, Mike Conley had clearly said, I would prefer to be traded. And so now that you have Morant, it makes easing the pain of trading Conley, a guy that was clearly a huge pillar of the franchise, it makes that way easier. But if you don't get lucky in the lottery, you're not sitting here. And then I think the front office deserves credit. I know a lot of people are like, that's all they got for Conley. It's like, well, if you look at it, in the end, you basically got 3 first-rounders because with Grayson Allen, he was the number 21 pick in a draft that was considered to be a better draft than this year's draft. And you get the first-rounder this year, and then they set it up to where, presuming that the Jazz make the playoffs the next 2 years and they don't just absolutely fall flat on their face, you're going to wind up getting an extra first-round draft pick in the 2022 draft, which is the draft that everyone's targeting for the double draft, because that's when they're expecting to get rid of the one-and-done rule, and then you'll have an extra shot in that draft. And so it all just kind of came together with, honestly, and it starts with a stroke of luck in the draft lottery. But more importantly, I give all the credit to the front office. I think ever since they've gotten lucky, they've done a great job of trying to actually get themselves to where they're embracing that, hey, this is indeed a rebuild. And now it's more feasible. Like you realize, like I think going up to get Brandon Clark was a really good move. And then you've got Jaren Jackson, obviously. Now you have Morant. And now you can start to see, okay, this team is probably not going to win a ton of games next year, but they finally got hope. And you can now look to the makings perhaps of a next iteration of the Grizzlies franchise in which they're competitive.
Jeff, free agency is obviously about to take center stage here in the NBA. Memphis maybe not the greatest destination spot when we're talking about the LAs, your New Yorks of the world, right? But what in particular do you think Memphis needs in that free agency that's coming up here in July? What do you think they need to kind of fill the void of the players that have left in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. Rinse, repeat. It's the same thing we've been saying since 2009. They need shooting.
Yeah.
And, I think that's another aspect of the Conley trade that it really gave them. It gave them a ton of money in cap flexibility. And perhaps maybe you do overpay to go get somebody. But if that's how you have to get someone in Memphis, I think, particularly if you look at the Chandler Parsons deal, and obviously now everyone knows that fell flat on its face. But if you apply context, at the time that the deal happened, no one, particularly in Grizzlies fandom, was all that upset. It's like, okay, well, yes, they overpaid to go get Chandler Parsons, but everyone assumed that, hey, the knee checked out in terms of the medical evaluations, and that offered them the opportunity to get a player that they didn't have, a guy that's a perimeter 3-point shooter, and that was the one thing that they've always been lacking. And so that now gives them, that everyone now has gotten upset with it because of the way that it's turned out with Parsons. But the way that it actually went down, most people were okay with it. They just assumed that the medicals checked out, in which they didn't. But it's really the same thing over and over again. The Grizzlies, I think, have done a great job getting more athletic. I think they've done a great job of building a roster that'll probably be more competitive in terms of what you see for NBA rosters today. But the one thing they clearly lack is shooting. And I guess you could make the argument that, if Grayson Allen does develop in what he was expected to be, he didn't really get an opportunity he didn't really get the opportunity with the Jazz to display what his skill set is. But in general, it's always for the Grizzlies. You got to find perimeter scoring.
Jeff, if you were to bridge the NBA to college basketball, no one is more of that bridge than Penny Hardaway himself. When you talk about growing up in Memphis, playing at Memphis and Star, and he goes on, he's a megastar in the NBA now. He's coaching the Memphis Tigers. And we've seen the recruiting class that he's brought in. DJ Jeffries, a guy here in Mississippi. Wiseman, a number one player in the country. I've heard the term Fab Five thrown out even with this new look Memphis team. How all in should we really be on Penny Hardaway's Memphis program?
Yeah, I think in general it's easy to be skeptical. Okay, you've got a new coach that, he's come in from the NBA. He's more of a name than anything. But when you look at it in terms of what he's put together, particularly with the recruiting class, it's not just he went out and got big name players and high level recruits. It's that if you look at the way that he constructed the roster, it makes a ton of sense. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he had the pre-existing relationship with James Wiseman. But with James Wiseman, you have your version of Giannis Antetokounmpo. You have your version of the 7-footer that is a freak athlete, handles the ball like a guard. Him just being on the floor, he creates space because of how much attention a defense has to give to him. Well, then he goes and he gets a Lester Quinones from IMG. Lester's one of the premier shooters in the country. Because of Trey Jones is coming back to Duke. That creates the situation now where Boogie Ellis, who was thinking, okay, I'm going to come in, I'm going to be the point guard at Duke. Now with him coming back, that opens up Boogie Ellis. Boogie Ellis was a guy that Memphis had recruited hard early in the process, and he's a terrific three-point shooter. The early returns from summer workouts have been that he might be the best shooter on the team. He might be the best shooter that the Tigers have seen in a very, very long time. And so when you look at it in how he's put it together, everything kind of fits. And I didn't even mention Precious Achiuwa. Precious Achiuwa is another elite level scorer that really blew up in the last 4 to 5 months, particularly on the EBYL circuit, and particularly when they started going into these big camps and going up against other elite players. I know it's easy to be skeptical, but you've been around me long enough to know, John, I always just default to sometimes people overthink this of like, well, how's this whole team going to fit together? I don't know, but man, if you've got a guy that Jonathan Cavoni says is going to be the number one player in next year's draft, if you've got another perhaps 2 lottery guys on the team, and then you're filling that in with more top 50 guys, I mean, that's an unbelievable roster. And in college basketball, there's just not teams that have that kind of talent. And does that mean I think they're going to be a national champion? No, but I know this: they're not going to tip it off against many teams that you're going to sit there and go, that team's better than they are.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you, Jeff. You hit the nail on the head. Memphis is coming like a freight train, and I'm excited to watch what Penny's group does on the floor this year. And Jeff, as we close, speaking of excitement, I want to come all the way back full circle and ask you about Rory McIlroy, a Northern Irishman going back to the Open at Royal Portrush, his home course of sorts. It's a fantastic story. Rory always one of the main storylines as a contender, but you know as well as I do and anybody what he has struggled to do on the weekends at big tournaments. What do you expect from Rory at the Open Championship in his hometown in Northern Ireland?
I don't really know how anyone can realistically say what to expect from the British Open this year at Portrush, because we haven't seen these guys play Portrush as it is now. Like, it's gone through a renovation. Like, it's one of the most historic courses in all of the UK, but I don't know how anyone can really say what they expect. Honestly, the only thing that I hate to say is the only thing I really expect is I don't think it's a good fit for Tiger. And I think Tiger, in general, like, the Open Championship is going to be one of the ones he's always going to have a chance in, just because his imagination, his consistent ball striking, it's always going to be a factor. But when you look at the average temperature of when this is going to be played up in Northern Ireland, it's going to be cold. And Pebble Beach opened my eyes, man. When it's cold, you just see how much Tiger really struggles to get heated up. That back never feels good. And I don't feel like he played that badly at Pebble, but it just never got going. And it's in that weird spot for if Tiger decides like it's not his week, it's almost like it's not like he's not trying, but we clearly did not see the same tenacity that we saw pretty much the entire weekend that we saw at Augusta, where he's laser focused. In terms of Rory, I'm quietly kind of hoping he doesn't play well there, because let's face it, we've got the eyes on the prize here at Team McElroy. We're focused on Augusta next April. Eyes on the prize. We're getting the career Grand Slam. It's a team thing. More importantly, if he goes and does something special at Portrush, we've got the WGC the next week here in Memphis, and I'm afraid there's not going to be a flight that will take Rory on, because he will be so drunk trying to come back if he wins in Portrush. So, I'm quietly, it's one of those things where, okay, obviously I'll take team, I'll take major championship number 5 for Team McElroy. I'm not going to shun it away. But if the difference between Rory playing here in Memphis is finishing T5, or maybe perhaps just a really, really non-competitive tie for 18th, I think I'm going to root for that, because I just don't want anything special to happen in Portrush, because I need Rory back here in Memphis in the last week of July.
Jeff Wright, always fun, always spot on. He's here in the Sports Lounge. Get him every afternoon, Monday through Friday, 2 to 4, ESPN 929 in Memphis. Jeff, always great catching up with you, man. Glad we made the Skype thing happen, and enjoy the week. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Jeff.
Anytime, my man.
Thanks a lot, bud. Jeff Wright in the Sports Lounge, ESPN 929 in Memphis. And look, a lot of good stuff from Jeff, as always, Ray, and whether you talk about Tiger. But I want to go back to Penny Hardaway. That is my thing, it's hard for this not to work. It's hard to see it when you compile the talent that he has, and the way college basketball is. You have to work really hard to tell me why it doesn't work for Penny Hardaway in Memphis.
I know everyone's going to say, experience. If you have some upperclassmen that have gone down that road a couple of times, they can beat an all-freshman squad. I don't know, man. If he puts together these guys and they come in and just get together and buy into what he's trying to sell, as far as on-the-court performance and buy into the chemistry, man, I don't know. We're talking about the best of the best that high school has to offer. And like you said, when next year's drafts comes around, those names will be called first. So we're talking about future NBA stars, man. So I just don't bet against that.
Well, you talk about a big game time winning guy. That was Penny Hardaway. We got Game Time coming up next in the Sports Lounge. Stay with us.
The Sports Lounge is the spot for every fan. Share the show for a chance to win a one-night stay for 2 at Waterview Casino in Vicksburg.
Get in the game and save it for the tape like we do here in the Sports Lounge. We're brought to you by Waterview Sportsbook and Casino, Mississippi's #1 space for legal sports betting. Head on out to Vicksburg and check them out. You can check us out here in the Sports Lounge online, on screen every week at bassbrothersmedia.com and all of our social media platforms. And guys, as we get into the summer season, and we're gonna, we'll do things a little differently here in the Sports Lounge over the next month as we look ahead to football season when we really kick things off. But now is the time in summertime when this whole conversation of specialization in sports or not really comes up. And Ray, the conversation with this, and that the idea now, back in the day, they played all sports. There was no specialization. Now, whether it's AAU basketball, 7-on-7 football, travel baseball, nowadays, the kids, it's the other direction. They say, look, we're going to specialize in only one sport. And people fall on both sides of this issue.
So many, man, from coaches to parents. You hear the discussion going around. What are you going to invest your time and your money in, if we're being quite honest about it, right? When we're talking about these young kids. For me personally, I'll just get right to it, man. I grew up playing a little bit of everything. Okay? I played basketball. I played football. I suck at baseball, but I played it. Just simply because that's what my friends were doing, and I got benefits out of it. You know what I mean? I've always been a guy to say, play whatever, man, because at the end of the day, how many kids are we talking about going to be the next Zion Williamson and specialize in basketball as an NBA player? That's his occupation. But when we're talking about just competing and learning games and learning competitive spirit, you play a little bit of everything. I may be on the wrong end, but as I hear you guys' advice and decision making, we'll find out. What about you? What about you, Joe?
Well, I was a guy, I specialized. Baseball became my life. And I liked playing other sports. I love all sports, but baseball was my life. And Ray and Joe, and you were too. I mean, I know you were a baseball player and you went to college to play baseball like I did. It wasn't because I wanted to specialize in it. It was what I wanted to do, you know? And I think that's what we miss sometimes in this whole freaking conversation is like, it's whatever the kid wants to do in the first place.
Valid point.
There's definitely a conversation, and there's a time to specialize, in my opinion. When you talk about late high school or you're talking about college, sure, go ahead. Like, I did the same thing. I played football for a while, and I specialized in baseball once I hit that point because I loved baseball. I was a baseball kid. Yeah. But when you're talking about the youth and the young kids, there is a lot of benefit to playing multiple sports, whether it's, learning different skills, different problem solving, different muscle groups that you're using. When you go and work out at the gym, you don't do the same routine every single day. Yeah. You change it up to activate different muscles and gain different, strengths. It's the same thing with sports. You got to change it up a little bit.
Do you feel like you could have been more of a complete athlete if you competed in more than one sport rather than baseball? If you tried out, playing basketball a little bit more football, what do you think?
I think it helps to a degree, and like we've talked with Steven Gostowski about this, for instance, who's one of the great kickers in NFL history. This was a 3-sport star in high school on the soccer pitch and on the baseball mound. And he's talked vividly to me about how those experiences in other sports helps him with the pressure of kicking in the NFL. When you get that ball in the 7th inning in a big game on Friday night, when you're playing in a state championship soccer game. So he talks about, how much it helped with like the intangible situations. But at the same time, not everybody's all that talented. Like I think that I don't think you're gonna get the same like development in your sport. Like 7-on-7 we talked about. If the kids who are playing on 7-on-7 this summer, playing quarterback, playing wide receiver, if they're playing baseball all summer, it might make them a more well-rounded athlete in that sense. But they are not going to be the quarterback and the receiver they could be without developing those same skills throughout the summer. So I think as much as it's easy to say, we don't want to specialize and, we want the core character and, well-rounded athlete, I think you only get the development that you want to get to be the full player that you can be by specializing.
There is some merit to that, but at the same time, you don't see the professional football players playing 7-on-7 during the summer. They're doing different things.
They've made it already.
It's not about making it. It's about resting and giving their bodies a rest. And there is some merit to that as well. When you talk about guys like me who went to college to go play baseball, but guess what? I destroyed my arm, and there's a reason for that. It's repetition, doing the same thing,
so
playing travel baseball.
Do you think you burned out to a degree in terms of only specializing in baseball?
I do, because when I'm pitching throughout every single, from springtime all the way basically until the very start of winter, I'm doing the same motion. I was a pitcher only too, so I was not only specialized in my sport, I was specialized within that sport at my position. So all of a sudden, it's repetition, overuse, and you get injuries from there.
At what age did you go from specializing to, when you were younger, playing a bunch of different sports? What age did you just start solely focusing on baseball?
When I hit high school is when I solely focused on baseball. And I wasn't a big multi-sport guy to begin with. I played mainly football and baseball. And I just knew with my talents and what I had behind my arm, baseball was the way to go for me.
And I just think it becomes a question also, like what's more important to me, and we talk about this a lot with young basketball recruits, and this was a conversation with Malik Newman a lot in terms of the identity that it creates for you as a person, you know what I mean, where it's not just about your skill set being developed or not, it's you are only this person and you are only measured by what you do on the basketball court. Like, I'm as much for, the specialization, like, go take a trip, you know what I mean? Go see the world as much as, like, there's a point to that, too. It's not as much sport versus sport. It's just the emphasis that we put on sports in a young kid's lives being the end-all and be-all and everything.
And I think, John, that's the part that kind of bothers me a little bit. I'm not so much worried about LeBron James and if he wants to play one sport. He played high school football, by the way, or even Zion or whoever. I worry about the parents who are forcing their kid to play that travel league baseball that you're talking about in 4th grade. And it's like, let the kid be a kid. We don't know if he's the next, Mike Trout in the 4th grade, right? We don't know if he's the next Ja Morant, since we were talking about, Memphis basketball. Man, you just don't know. Let them enjoy the game. The sport that I sucked at the most, I had the most fun in my memories, Little League baseball. Dude, I suck at baseball. But just the travel that you would have with your friends from the neighborhood and just the guys I ended up making an all-star select team in 4th grade. Let's keep that in mind. But just those travels that we made to Summit, Mississippi to play against guys I had never seen before, Those are some of my most fondest memories. I was the best at basketball.
And
right?
I think that's where we see it go wrong a lot, right?
Yes.
Is the intentionality of it. Like, I think you open the doors and give, a young kid an opportunity to play all sports. But in the end, as long as it's what the kid wants to do, like whether you're choosing a school, right, Joe, or what you're playing in summer, like if you had wanted to, play basketball the whole time, but you wanted to play baseball in the whole summer, and so I think
there's no doubt about that.
It has to be the choice of the young person, and whether it's coaches telling you, you can't play this other sport. Well, what? Or whether it's parents saying, well, you have to play this sport. Yeah. I think that's where the problem is.
Yes, I totally agree. That's the part that bothers me the most when you hear a coach say you got to demand all your time to this. And I get they want the guy to focus in on that position, especially when you're talking about the quarterback position or a pitcher or things like that. But you have to give these young men and women an opportunity to grow, to find themselves, to figure out if they like baseball, in fact, better than they do basketball or football. Figure out what that passion is. Maybe high school is the cutoff to say, let's get there and then start specializing. I don't know, though.
But I think, like, let's be honest and let's be realistic here. Like, everyone who's playing high school football at this level has a dream to at least play at the next level. You're in Mississippi here. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, this is not like, go put the pads on Friday night, like, rah-rah, community team. Like, kids want to succeed here in this state. That's why football is so great, is the
reason why baseball is too.
And the drive that you have. And so you are, we're invested. And we talk about 7-on-7. Like, 7-on-7 has made people better in this state by football players specifically, instead of, you play football through the year and then you're playing summer baseball. Football has improved in this state. The talent level has improved in this state, specifically because of specialization. Hard, intense, rigorous specialization. It may not be for everybody, but that's a reality in this country right now, and certainly here in the state of Mississippi.
That's where I find it to be almost a two-part question. I think you're right, there is some merit to it, but at the same time, I think that you're right as well. There is youth at one point. Youth needs to have that multi-sport option where you can go do everything, but once you hit that high school level, that's where you got to ask your child, do you want to keep playing multiple sports or do you want to specialize? Yeah. And that's where you make the decision.
Yeah.
My worry is, it's like you said, we're getting back to it's sports. And it's important, especially here in the South. But I worry about we have specialized kids so much across the board, whether it be soccer, baseball, softball, you name it. And then all of a sudden they get to high school and it's like, I'm 5'4", 120 pounds, and I'm probably not going to do anything.
There's the burnout effect that is real.
So that's the part that I worry about.
You have to protect kids against a little bit. And for me, I think it's what you talk about. Again, it's less about necessarily sport to sport as like a whole person. Like you just have to be able to, as much as we love sports, like you have to be able to do other things with your life and be another person than I'm just a baseball player. And oh, by the way, I'm 15 years old.
The best things that I got from sport was the camaraderie that I had with folks on the team and the competitive spirit. I'm a competitor because of sports, because I don't like losing. And I learned my work ethic from my basketball coach, who taught me, don't take no for an answer, work your tail off, man, and at the end of the day, compete, because you never know what's inside of you, that untapped potential. The sport part, I was never going to be Allen Iverson or LeBron James or Kobe Bryant, who we were looking at the time. I was going to be a regular 5'9" dude. But I learned my life skills from sports. So that's what I hope that these kids are getting, whether it's specialization or not. Hopefully they're getting those life skills out of it.
But I do think that's a good point there, is that the worry and I guess the concern isn't as much sort of sport to sport. Like, listen, if you're a great two-sport star, you know what I mean, and you're an uber athlete, like you'll be that dude, you know what I mean? Sure. But it can be the sort of overemphasis, the professionalization of it, and the monetization of it, and all of those things that you can get into when it's too much, sort of too early, and too sort of all the time. Good deep dish here in the Sports Lounge, as always. We're getting into the summer, and that is certainly the conversation around Mississippi. And as we look ahead to the fall football coming up, and I can't wait. It is right around the corner, literally. Like, these 7-on-7 games are going to become 11-on-11 Friday night lights before we know it.
As my old coach said, you can almost smell to it, right around the corner, right? Yeah,
it's coming up soon. Well, look, game time coming up soon in the Sports Lounge. We are going to have a Rock'em Sock'em rematch. The Wheel of Death spoke. Ray's about to get in the mat again. Stay with us. Game time coming up.
The Sports Lounge is hosted by Waterview Sportsbook and Casino in Vicksburg, Mississippi's #1 place for legal sports betting.
It's the moment we've all been waiting for. We're back in the Sports Lounge with Game Time. This week we got Rock'em Sock'em. It's a rematch. Yeah. And it's the classic game of battling robots.
Battling robots. Yeah. And I just want you to know, like last week it was 3-1. It wasn't even really that close.
Here we go with
this.
It
was
close. What are you talking about?
It was like you got one, but even that one was questionable. Like
I didn't realize we were doing the weigh-in smack talk already.
I didn't realize it either.
I mean, the camera's rolling, man. I'm chomping at the bit.
All right, the point of this game is to knock your opponent's block off. Yeah. In one corner, we got John Wiener, who is the bruising blue bomber. In the other corner, we got Ray Coleman, the rugged red rocker.
Sugar Ray!
I come to redeem myself this week, by the way.
You need it, man.
Because at the end of the day, no way should this guy be knocking my block off in a game that I claim to be.
I was 2 steps ahead of you last week.
2 steps?
I was so far ahead, man.
See, this is what happens when you let him win like back to back, by the way. Because all of a sudden now he's starting to feel himself a little bit. I'm doing this for the people at home. I'm not even doing this for me.
It was like Customato was in my corner 2 weeks ago.
All right, you dogs done barking?
Yeah.
Let's touch gloves over here.
Let's rip.
Gloves touched. All right, here we go.
Round 1.
Get out. Man, what's gonna be quick work, man? I'm telling you.
What kind of rigging? Can I just do a taste to see if this man's... Hold on, let me just do a taste and make sure his neck works, man.
It's a weak chin.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure the neck works. Okay.
Sauce, man. You know what I mean?
All right, John Wiener takes round 1.
So I got to win the next 2.
It was quick. We're on first to 3.
All right, ready?
Man, will you...
I mean, Butterball could do better in here.
We need PED testing right now, man.
I mean, you...
Wait a minute.
Like, do we need to send you, like,
what
back
is
to the
this?
training ring, man? Come on, let's make quick work. I told you last week.
Wait a minute.
You last week even the one.
Look at this, man.
Like it wasn't even
This man
close.
did 1 punch.
It wasn't even close.
Yo, I need to talk to Houdini and John Wiener after the show.
You need to put in like an investigation.
Man,
We're gonna go to like the commission
here.
Go
to break, man. Bring this man his legend chain, man.
No, we got one more. I know you're trying to get out of the ring already. I know it's only 2-0. I know it really is time to stop the fight. Should we just stop the fight after 2?
How are we getting people's tail?
It is stop fight territory. I know.
Come on, man.
Look, I don't want to get this man hurt.
No, man, come on. It's too late now. I threw in the towel. I was the guy from Rocky 3 said throw in the damn Rocky 4, throw in the damn towel. But come on. Okay, so it works. That makes me feel better. Hey, man, this is PED right here. I need a blue sample immediately following this fight.
Did I take that one too?
No, you didn't take that one.
Ray took that one. Okay, you got it. All right, 2-1.
Come on, man.
That's what I thought. All right, you got your one.
Let's see. Uh-oh.
Ooh, that was close.
That was fast. Where are we?
So close.
Where are we?
Wow.
Where are we?
Wow.
I almost want to say...
We're going to have to go to the, replay.
We're going to have to go to the replay. Are you getting tight over here right now?
No, I'm not worried, man. I'm not worried. It was.
Are y'all ready for the epic comeback?
These last 2 were.
Get yourself set up again.
These last 2 were pretty close.
Are y'all ready?
These last 2 were pretty close.
Are y'all ready?
Come on, man.
Let Juice get set.
Come on, man.
Be respectful to Juice, man.
I think you might have slipped Juice.
Be respectful to Juice. Is everybody ready? Because I want y'all to make sure y'all catch this epic comeback. You ready to catch these hands?
Yeah, let's do it.
If you didn't catch that replay,
you still don't want this smoke.
If you didn't catch that replay, Ray took the dub. Let's go. Come on, ready?
Okay.
We're tied up 2-2.
Put you in the mat again. Game time. Rock'em sock'em. Stay with us.
The Sports Lounge, the spot for every fan. Online, on screen, every week at Bash Brothers Media.
This chain is getting heavy now at this point, man. Wearing it so much every week. Game time concluded. He's Ray, I'm John. Let's go to ISO Joe for the official results.
And it was a close one this week. Sugar Ray almost made the comeback, but falls short 3-2. And you know what they say.
Yeah.
Winners win.
And you know, I'm letting the people down.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, nobody wants to see this, man.
Yeah. I mean, you know what they say? If you don't want the bat flip, don't give up the dinger.
No. Well, I won't say it to the general public because I don't know what the general public wants. tell me. Hit me up on Twitter and let me know what you want. But in this room, I can assure you, nobody wants what's happening right now because we have to deal with it.
You know what I mean? Stop hanging it over the plate and let me just rake it for a 50. What they want is they want to see what we're going to do next week.
It's true.
And as the winner,
Winners win
again. We want to see what happens. We had a rematch last week from the wheel.
I don't want no more rock'em sock'em.
Yeah,
I don't
you
feel
want
good.
anymore. Oh, cornhole.
You getting waxed. No, you getting waxed. Now, hey, put it on right now, and if we need to go back, he's getting waxed. Period.
Come on now.
Okay.
Cornhole.
Okay.
That's going to be your game.
That's going to be my game.
Of all the games that
of
the
all
wheels
the
are going to go
games,
to, it's cornhole's going to be the
love
one
it.
to take it down. Tune in next week to see the corn. Have we done cornhole
we
yet?
have not,
We
and
haven't,
I'm
right?
telling you, you're taking this L on this one.
Like it wouldn't.
Okay.
It wouldn't be.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I kind of forgot what that feels like. Honestly, man. You know what I mean? I feel like I said it's like there's like an impression in my chest now from wearing this legend chain every week. Game time always fun in the sports lounge. We talk a lot of shit. We have a lot of fun, and glad you guys are with us every week. BashBrothersMedia.com, all of our social media platforms as well. Josh the Juice. Houdini hang.
Did you like that, man?
Yeah,
Did you
I can get behind it, man.
Right.
I see the magic
back there. Juice wasn't feeling me,
I see the magic that happens every week. Well, let's get out of here. Hey, look, before you leave the lounge, you got to take some parting shots. ISO Joe.
All right, I'm starting off with Dak Prescott, who's fishing around for a new deal. And it's an interesting thing because whenever that happens, the conversation is brought up again about salaries and quarterbacks asking for so much that it handicaps a team. I disagree. Stop that. He's going to get his deal. He'll get as much money as he needs. And in a couple years, it's not going to be as high as everyone thought it was.
Very true. I just want to have my parting shot be a big ups to Quindary Weatherspoon from Mississippi State University. Quindary, Malik Newman, same class, right? And I'm not taking a shot at Malik Newman, but this guy and this guy were very high on Malik Newman and still am as far as the guy that he is. But I think we did not value the awesomeness, as I like to say, that is Quindary Weatherspoon. Here a guy is that spent 4 years at Mississippi State, was the best player at Velma Jackson High School, is one of the better players to ever go down Mississippi State history, and now he's living his dream, man, as a now NBA player with the San Antonio Spurs. Could not be more proud of for that kid, and he's a true testament and example of what happens when hard work meets opportunity, and I think he's in the best spot possible to play for Greg Popovich and the San Antonio Spurs. Quindary Weatherspoon, salute to you, sir.
Yeah, big ups to two Mississippi State guys, Dak Prescott and Quindary Weatherspoon. I'm going to go back to two touching moments in the Major League Baseball season and in the scene this past week by the same person that I really think sums up what baseball can be about and certainly took me back to my childhood. And I want to talk about Albert Pujols now with the Los Angeles Angels, formerly with the St. Louis Cardinals. One moment, Down syndrome kid. It was a viral video on social media. Came up to get Albert to sign his jersey. Pujols took the jersey off his back, signed it for him, took a picture, made a lifetime moment for a kid. And you talk about a lifetime moment. Albert Pujols comes back to St. Louis for the first time since leaving there after 11 years, hits a home run and gets a standing ovation and a curtain call that lasted for minutes at St. Louis. It brought tears to my eyes to think about that moment, what it meant for St. Louis, and what a titan Albert Pujols was for that city and the game of baseball. And shows you more than anything else for a guy 5-6 years removed from a franchise to come back as an opposing player and get the love that he got. Albert Pujols, one of the great players and ambassadors in my entire lifetime, probably not appreciated enough in terms of what a great all-time baseball player he is. So it was great to see Albert Pujols get his moment in the sun. Really one of the final ones for one of the great guys ever to do it. Shout out Albert Pujols. So three good parting shots to close. Dak Prescott, Quindary Weatherspoon, and Albert Pujols. And always, I feel like, a good Sports Lounge show, man. This thing gets more fun every week. And look, we know what time we're coming up. July. It's a little slow.
Yeah.
It's a little slow in July. But on the other side of things, when we get August, Ray, and I tell Joe, especially in this state, like, in the Northeast and the West Coast, okay, you wait September, mid-September, and folks ready for the NFL. Down here, high school football, it's like August 1, and we're ready to go.
We get an opportunity. So, the colleges, high school, they have their dead week, right, when nothing's happening. Yeah. We might do the same thing, but, man, I'm telling you, when late July, August picks up, It is on, and it will not stop rolling until we get into the new year. So I'm super excited about it.
We will take a week off next week in the Sports Lounge for 4th of July and the American Independence Day. So we will celebrate that and want everybody else to have a great 4th of July. Lots of all kinds of cool stuff coming in the Sports Lounge certainly this fall. We'll check back in here in the month of July with a little summer special. Lots of great stuff all the time over at Bash Brothers Media. We got a big Play It Where It Lies show this week. Big giveaway happening. $1,000 worth coming from Bash Brothers and the Deerfield guys and Southern Beverage as well. So fun time at Bash Brothers always, getting better every week here on the Sports Lounge. Ray Coleman.
My man.
Always a pleasure.
Yes,
great to have Television's own Ray Coleman in with us. For ISO Joe, Josh the Juice, Houdini Hank, the dog. I'm John Wiener. Make it a good one.
Thanks for stopping into the Sports Lounge. Join us online, on screen, every week at Bash Brothers Media.